Welcome to Woxsen Talk, entrepreneurial decision-making in the corporate world. Current business environments demand an agile and proactive business model with authentically committed workforce. Equally crucial is the creation of an organizational culture that stimulates new ideas, willing to take calculated risks, a vision that generates passion, and passion that generates sustainable results. So, what is today's success and failure based upon? How do leaders face new technologies and dynamics of global markets? How do they deal with the need to reshape their personnel, their strategies, and organizations to remain on top? How do they increase their agility and flexibility to deal successfully in an ever more unpredictable world? Two problems cause CEOs most sleepless nights: how to turn employees into engaged, committed, proactive, and innovative staff, and how to create a culture of trust and integrity to make the best decisions and increase market share. Of course, if you take care of the first part, the second is taken care of by default. So what is decision-making ability? Is it innate? Can it be developed? It certainly can, but the traits of decision-making ability are a clear vision, integrity, enthusiasm, ability to negotiate, being disciplinary, organizing, resolute, communicator, charismatic, creative, and of course, have a high emotional intelligence and remained in constant development. So emotional intelligence is the continuous development of critical thinking skills and skeptic reflectivism. Now, how innovation arises from collaboration. The challenge, I think Bill Gates referred to this as the challenge for an organization, is to build a culture that encourages new ideas while providing a platform to reinforce collaboration. So how can we go about creating a culture that does not see risk as fear, but risk as a challenge? The greatest business challenge, therefore, is to create an intelligent business. And this goes hand in hand with the leadership culture, a culture of trust, transparency, commitment, collaboration that stimulate new ideas with high moral and ethical values. And the DNA required for this leadership culture to come about is based on the organizational structure. That's the building block. And this is intimately related to human behavior, which can be said in simple terms as the response of an individual or group or a species to its environment. But it's much more than that. It's not only given by the genetic, psychic, and continuous interaction with the environment from conception on, but also to a complex business cost analysis, which includes the subconscious factor that explained the so-called irrational human behavior. Somebody's trash is somebody else's treasure. From an economic perspective and pure benefit cost analysis, the individual that purchases a stock where the cost is greater than benefit is considered irrational from a purely economic perspective. But if we incorporate this factor called hedonic tone, we can perfectly explain the irrational in this behavior. Because hedonic tone is the degree of pleasantness or unpleasantness associated with an event, object, or situation. So if the hedonic tone is extremely positive, as it was back in 2000 when Alan Greenspan referred to the irrational exuberance of the markets, in other words, investors were acting irrational, and of course from an economic benefit cost analysis, it was completely irrational. But if we incorporated that extremely positive hedonic tone, also known from psychology as balance, either positive or negative, at that time it was extremely positive, therefore it overrode completely the benefit cost analysis. And that can also be the other way around, when the benefit is greater than the cost, but the hedonic tone is negative, therefore it will not be undertaken. Now, trust is an extremely important part of an organization's DNA. Extremely difficult to build and extremely fragile and easy to destroy. Because trust is based on transparency, motivation, commitment, responsibility, collaboration, effective communication, loyalty, satisfaction, and tranquility. So the ideal human capital are individuals with highly developed critical thinking skills and emotional intelligence in an environment of trust, mutual support, and respect. And here is where we fail dramatically. Because what good is it if the DNA of an organizational structure is restrictive? It doesn't matter what type of initial behavior we may have with individuals, because the organization is restrictive and it will not allow for this transformation that everybody is looking for in organizations. Unfortunately, most organizations have only focused on the phenotype. They have changed the shapes and forms of the organizations, but the DNA remains restrictive, bureaucratic, where people people feel that they are paid to obey, not to think. And this structure, the bureaucratic structure, the dominant hierarchy, was extremely useful 100 years ago, maybe until the 1950s. And in the 1960s, we began to realize, because of this turbulence and increasing relevant uncertainties, that the dominant hierarchy, the bureaucratic structure, which worked beautifully back then, it was no longer capable of dealing with these uncertainties. And it couldn't provide the agility and flexibility that was required ever since. So unfortunately, most companies have been unable to transform their restrictive, bureaucratic, dominant hierarchy into an expansive, participative, non-dominant hierarchy, where people feel, empowered, and they feel they have this intrinsic motivation. Unfortunately, when dealing with phenotypic structures, you hear matrix, chaotic, cellular, fractal, synergetic, organizational, horizontal, flat. These are all shapes and forms. It's like trying to compete in a race with a small engine and put in a chassis and the appearance of a Formula One car. It will not behave like that. You have to transform the genetic makeup in order for the organization to behave the way we want to. So, how can we create excellence to achieve business ideals? How do consumers view a company? How is my company different from the rest? Why should people buy from me? Why is my strategy for maintaining and developing customer relationship the best? Obviously, the key thing here is to have a workforce truly committed, intrinsically motivated, and the strategic use of resources, technological, monetary, etc., as well as entrepreneurial mentality. In other words, a culture that takes calculated risks, stimulates new ideas, and has a vision that generates passion, and passion that generates results. So the key thing is, how can we go about to create an intelligent organization? That is, an organization that learns and keeps on learning. You can determine in 5 minutes how intelligent your organization is. And there are 6 psychological criteria for effective and efficient work, purposeful work. The first one is responsibility for decision making, opportunity to learn, and variety. These 3 can be either too much or too little, usually depending on where you move in the hierarchy. The lower the hierarchy you go down, the lower the responsibility for decision making, opportunity to learn, and variety. If you are higher up the hierarchy, you have too much responsibility, too much opportunity to learn, too much variety. The next three psychological criteria are mutual support and respect, meaningful work, and a desirable future. These three you can never have too much. And in 5 minutes, you can determine how restrictive your organizational structure is or how participative, expansive it is. Intelligent organizations satisfy optimally every one of these 6 criteria. And of course, they also deal with all the requirements. Intelligent organizations deal with the requirements for complying with ISOs 9000, 14000, 1400, 26, Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, Kaizen, balanced scorecard, Baldrige quality management. All of those are taken care of through an intelligent organization where continuous learning is part of the main process, effective communication, leadership, self-management, and non-dominant hierarchies. So the greatest business leadership challenge is to develop a culture where the personnel is truly committed by the vision and mission of the company. We have heard so much about sustainability issues and the tragedies of the commons. And the main problem has been because the definition of sustainability was very poor from the beginning. Meeting the needs of the current generation without compromising the future needs. It's politically sound definition, but operationally impossible. So sustainability should be viewed as a socio-economic process characterized by ideal-seeking behavior. The student profile is amazing. This is the new generation of students who are not merely interested in obtaining a diploma, but in really making a difference in today's world. Innovative, creative, with leadership skills, and a desire that motivates them to pursue their ideals, that vision that might be unattainable now, but endlessly approachable, and with time will become a reality, because that's what has moved progress throughout humanity and the world, this pursuit of an ideal. I commend the authorities and all those behind this fantastic undertaking, and I'm sure the future is bright for Woxsen School of Business and all its students. Thank you.